Hey legalists and hexagons! Today I'm going to be showing you a video from the World Economic Forum. Why? Because ironically it was about tackling disinformation, and in the video some rather shocking statements are made that go to the very root of our rights to freedom of speech. That was made by the communications representative of the World Economic Forum. So let's see what she actually had to say.
Hope, about global communities, about everyone having a chance to share lovely pictures of their families and friends, and none of the kind of discussion about the darker side of what could happen. And TikTok is a new platform famous for dancing videos and showdowns of people singing and that kind of stuff. But it's also very susceptible to exactly what you've been talking about in the disinformation, misinformation space. So how do we balance that thing of seeing these platforms suddenly emerge from nowhere and get the users who, some of them with bad faith, bad intention, and sometimes state-sponsored, jumping in with this kind of bad content? How do we deal with that? And how do you deal with that at the UN?
I mean, I agree with everything Claire and Rachel said about the phenomenon, and also that I can't remember the exact statistic, but it's an astonishing number of young people who get their news from TikTok and no other place. So the responsibility then, with that knowledge of that TikTok has, is huge. And, it's even more. And if there is that much mis and disinformation traveling on the platform, obviously they need to do more to address it, but also to educate. But I do think we as news organizations, we as institutions, also have a continued responsibility to inform the world about the state of our world.
I'm just going to quickly pause there. So what she basically saying here is they're losing control and they're losing power because of the growth of the media and social platforms, which is actually probably a topic for another day. Like, for example, how we see even celebrities are losing like their influence. I mean, nowadays you can become a celebrity just by being a really good TikTok or YouTube influencer. So society is definitely changing, but what it means for institutions, like especially news institutions, that they are no longer the single source of information like it used to be. They no longer have that central kind of controlled, censored power. Of course, I believe that they abused that, and that's why a lot of people have moved away. And there's been so much success in people creating their own information platforms. But yeah, this is, I think they're clinging at straws.
To guide the public. And unfortunately, like, for example, the UN, I was astonished to learn from my social media colleagues that we fall under a category called civic institutions, which means our starting point, we're downranked. So our starting point is down here, whereas Joe, conspiracy theorist, can start here. And so Facebook tries to address this by giving us ad credits so that we can then come back and be at the same place that whoever wants to say anything person is. But it is an algorithmic shift that was deliberately taken to favor individuals over institutions, and the institutions who are there to serve the public.
You mean like owning nothing and being happy? Okay. Apparently that's for our good.
For good are at a disadvantage. We are also, though, have to get better at communicating in these spaces, and I think the humans who are, running our governments, our public health institutions, also need to be more human in their communications, because that's what functions well on social media channels. So it is, it's educating.
By the way, when education becomes very centralized and controlled, that is a form of communism.
Hopefully elevating the content that, we partnered with Google, for example. If you Google climate change, you will, at the top of your search, you will get all kinds of UN resources. We started this partnership when we were shocked to see that when we Googled climate change, we were getting incredibly distorted information right at the top. So we're becoming much more proactive. We own the science, and
we own the science. So I had to actually just capture his face at the end there. Although I think he was really composed and very serious, and obviously part of where the conversation was going, I think at that point he felt very uncomfortable. He even shuffled a little bit. That is such an absurd statement, to say that you can own science. I mean, if you have any understanding of what science actually is, first of all, science can only be classified according to natural or social phenomena. So naturally speaking, you can't own rain. You can't own density, which is an example of a scientific phenomena. So to say that you can own that is clearly somewhat mistaken. Even if we look at an applied form of science, which is when you tap into scientific knowledge and you apply to basic pure knowledge. Of course, when we're talking about global warming, we're talking about natural phenomena, first of all. But even if you were to extend it to implied science, that means there's an element of, applied science. There's an element of application, interpretation, which should then obviously be opened up to scrutiny, which is also an essential part of any scientific process, any valid scientific process. So the fact that they're then censoring any scrutiny and making only one limited version, restricted part of that information, which they supposedly own somehow, is obviously then on top of it going against basic scientific method. I think we can all agree then and understand that by doing that, by partnering with Google in that way to censor and control information, that then the basic rights to freedom of speech not necessarily being removed, but definitely being reduced and infringed on. And I don't see any logical basis for it, for her statement that she can say that she owns science or a natural phenomena or even an applied phenomena while washing out any scrutiny, any form of disinformation, how that can be valid or justified. So I also found it strange that the World Economic Forum, has a very large narrative on climate change. So, of course, my channel's about crypto and HEX, especially. I wanted to find out what her views are on crypto. So this lady, her name is Melissa Fleming. I couldn't find any information from her with regard to crypto. No opinions. I have no idea what her position is on crypto, if she's a supporter, if she's against it. She herself is possibly invested. I couldn't find anything. So then obviously my next step was to take a look at the World Economic Forum and see what they had to say. So I did find an article. Unfortunately, it's not that recent. It's from January 2021. But I found it quite insightful. So it says here, it might come as a shock to the rebellious strain that's prominent in the crypto community, but its world and that of the WEF have some important similarities. Both must grapple with the core problem of governance in a decentralized environment, with the difficulty of solving problems that serve the interests of the whole when there's no single party in charge. So I'm just going to interject here. Isn't it the whole point of crypto that there isn't supposed to be a single party in charge? Anyway, I digress. Both of them grapple, apparently, with the problem of consensus. As Adrian explains, the WEF tries to resolve this by using its unparalleled convening power. It brings together disparate decision makers from governments, businesses, and civil society so they can find common ground on how to address the world's many urgent needs. So suddenly the WEF is posing itself as our saving grace with unparalleled convening power. Basically, what they're saying is they are, or their goal is to be the single party in charge because of their unparalleled convening power with regard to governments, businessmen, and civil society. So there we have it. It seems like the WEF is not against crypto per se. However, their agenda seems to be much like we are seeing with the SEC, to have as much control as possible. In fact, so much so that they see themselves as unparalleled in that sense. So guys, on that note, if you haven't, perhaps you didn't sacrifice for freedom of speech last year with Pulse. However, it's not too late to get in. We are in the bear market and currently we have the best prices possible. So at the moment, HEX is staying at 0.03 US cents. The Rand has strengthened a little bit. So today it's only 53 cents for one HEX. Get in, stake your HEX, get ready for the Pulse launch. And I wish you guys all the best for the rest of today. And I'll chat to you tomorrow. Bye.